Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The rising 10-0 prospect Daniel Dubois is reiterating how keen he is to face the Commonwealth champion Joe Joyce. So Dubois himself, he holds a number of belts, minor titles, the area title, Southern Area. He also holds the English title, a WBO strap and WBC youth title. Joyce himself, the gold title for the WBA and also the Commonwealth title. So if they have this fight, which has been ordered by the British Boxing Board of Control, there is a purse bid for later in this month. To the winner goes all the domestic spoils in the UK. So that's a way to sort of clean up, make a statement, and then on to, for Dubois, probably European level, and for Joyce, more likely onto world level. He kind of feels like he's on the verge of that at the moment, even though he's only had, about 8 fights or so. Dubois and Joyce, they seem to be on a collision course, but I'm just not so sure it's going to happen. But we've had some more statements from Daniel Dubois, and it's been quite interesting because they've been really playing up this, that they want this fight with Joyce, even though that he's got this upcoming fight with Richard Lartey, and Joe Joyce has been making some noises about other fights on the horizon. You can see here, this is this article that they've put out about a Joyce and Dubois fight. This is a press release on frankwarren.com. Dubois saying, "Me against Joyce, I'm definitely up for it." So, and some of this I wonder is, are they playing chicken here? Are they trying to sort of see who's going to blink first and pull out of this? Joyce, he's been indicating in recent days, here's his Instagram, hoping to have some fight news for you all soon. Next fight well in the works, lots happening behind the scenes. Stay tuned, hashtag the juggernaut. Is that Daniel Dubois though? Yeah, I'm not so convinced. I think Joyce will end up fighting one of his stablemates within the PBC stable and probably fighting on ITV. Maybe it will be in the US next. He's bouncing back and forward. He fought Stavern on ITV in the UK. That was broadcast back to the States, but I think we will see him, depending on the fight, in both locations. But Dubois, in this sort of statement that's gone up again, and this is almost like an identical sort of statement to one that was up about a week or so ago. So they're really pushing home this, and I think part of it could be playing chicken here, because maybe they don't think Joyce is going to take this fight because he's got other things on the go. And I've been a bit sort of skeptical, will Frank Warren really serve up Daniel Dubois at 21 years old to a guy like Joe Joyce, who is a prospect in name only? He's approaching world level compared to some of the other heavyweights that are around. I think within the top 30 he probably beats a lot of them quite handily, and he really did batter Stavern. But there's an element about Joe Joyce that he's vulnerable to. His offense is kind of his defense because he's very hittable, and for a guy like Dubois, maybe he fancies that. Maybe they think actually the style clash, the defensive frailties of Joyce, that they could exploit that, because Dubois is one of the biggest punchers coming through the division right now, a blue chip prospect. But there is a part of me that just sort of thinks, they're going to really risk this guy right now. But the statement says Daniel Dubois insists he's more than up for fulfilling his side of the bargain when it comes to challenging for the vacant British heavyweight title. The British Boxing Board of Control put forward Dubois and Olympic silver medalist Joe Joyce to battle for the Lonsdale belt vacated by Hughie Fury. And it's a fight that genuinely appeals to the 21-year-old 10-0 man who has already won the Southern Area and English titles, as well as the WBC World Youth and WBO European belts. First, however, he has got to do a job against the 14-1 Ghanaian Richard Lartey at the SSE Arena, Wembley, on April 27. If he passes this test with flying colours, Joyce is the type of opponent that fits the bill for Dubois. Part of me doesn't think the Joyce fight is going to happen next, because I think it's been more used at the moment as almost like advertising for this upcoming fight. It's the carrot, because this whole Lartey fight hasn't really been talked about too much. People aren't really interested in this. Richard Lartey, a bit of an enigma. He's pulled out of fights, including one against Joe Joyce in 2018. Only really fought in Ghana. The one time he fought outside of Ghana, he lost. So he's a little bit of an unknown quantity, although the limited footage online suggests that he is a decent puncher. But probably Dubois gets through this. But these couple of statements that they've released in the last week or so, it's really been hinged around and focused on the Joe Joyce next stuff as opposed to Lati next. And this is the sort of carrot that they're throwing out. Well, look, if he beats Lati, that's coming up, remember that, then on to Joe Joyce. Sort of seems to be that they're pushing the Joyce angle to help advertise the Lati thing. So it is what it is, I guess. But Dubois says, me against Joe, if that fight can be made, I'm definitely up for it. Moving on, these are the sorts of fights that I want to face and win against to progress through the rankings and get where I want to be, preparing for world titles. And I'll just add, Dubois recently entered the WBO rankings for the first time. He's towards the tail end of the top 15, not inside the top 10 as Frank Warren had predicted after his most recent win against Razvan Kajanu. So he continues, there is no way around these fighters. I have to face him and I have to beat him. I'm sure he would. We'll just wait and see. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't. That's talking about he thinks Joyce would be up for the fight too. We did a lot of rounds, maybe 40 to 60, when I mixed it with all the guys up there, sparring, but we tested each other and helped each other while we were on the squad. It was a good experience. He tries to overpower and outwork you, so he is a busy non-stop and a challenge for anyone who faces him. And asked, including a challenge for himself, no, not at all. I will work 100%, even harder than I am now, to beat these guys. The better guys I'm facing, the better I will be. Daniel Dubois' statement. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Dubois and Joyce having sparred quite a few rounds on the British scene, you know, in the Team GB squad. Dubois must have some confidence from that. Although I think it's fair to say, Joyce, who was an amateur for quite a long time, he did come to the sport late, hence, you know, he had a long amateur career and then turned pro at 33, and he took up the sport at 22. So he's been developing, and even in the period when he would have sparred with Dubois, he was still quite raw to some extent, and he has been getting better and better. Although the same can be said for Daniel Dubois. But yeah, I'm just not sure it happens next. This is the sort of fight, kind of like the Gorman one, where I think, you know, Daniel Dubois is maybe a year or two away from those types of fights. I think they're going to carefully matchmake him for the next, you know, 3 or 4 fights, get him to somewhere to 15, 16, 17 and 0 before he's really taking on the challenges like a Joe Joyce. And I know a lot of people like to say, oh, you know, well, Frank Warren does this, you know, he'll pitch him in with this, but it is a two-way street here. And I'm not so sure that Team Joyce, because I'm sure Joe Joyce would want this fight, but Dubois may not necessarily be in their plans, because they had already been talking about other potential fights, and they had listed other names recently, including the likes of Chris Arreola, Charles Martin, Adam Kovnarski, other targets, and primarily they were within the PBC stable. Then this order came down from the British Boxing Board of Control. So, you know, it's another option for them to consider, but is it going to happen? And as I just sort of brought up before, hoping to have some news for you all soon. And this purse bid is coming up in mid-April. Maybe we will hear something announced ahead of that, and Joe Joyce potentially is not part of the equation for the vacant British heavyweight title. And in that scenario, maybe Daniel Dubois, if he gets past Richard Lati, he is one end of the title fight, but against who? Well, that would be another question. So yeah, I'm not convinced it's going to happen, but I do like the matchup. Anyway, what do you make of Daniel Dubois' statements? He does sound confident, and there is a part of me that thinks this is being used as advertising to sell this Lati fight, which is barely being talked about. Minimal fan interest in this, but yeah, it is what it is. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.